It may not be the best, but if you take a second guess, I know you hold you, I know he told you, just two dudes and a dance.
Welcome into Two Dudes in a Desk. I'm Bryson Grau.
And I'm Jacob Gordado.
This is the first episode of this series, so congratulate yourself, pat yourself on the back for just tuning into this and clicking on that link. That was...
Tuning in, what are we doing, fucking ham radio?
We are on a ham radio. I'm Dodger. What's your ham name?
The Lone Ranger.
The Lone Ranger. Dodger and the Lone Ranger here. Thanks for clicking that button, and thanks for tuning into the first episode of this series. We're really excited to share with you. So, this episode, we're going to go over some of our favorite and least favorite films of 2017. Jacob, start us off. What was your fifth favorite film of this year?
My fifth favorite film would have to be It. A Stephen King written adaptation.
Wait, what? What is it called?
It.
Wait, what?
This guy's a funny guy. The movie It stars some kids and some Swedish guy trying to kill them, basically. Really though, the movie was quite a surprise. I had very low expectations for the movie. Most Stephen King movies, as we'll see in this list, are trash most of the time, and you don't really get anything good out of them. But this one was surprising, because with the amount of child actors required for this movie, I thought it was gonna be shit. But to my surprise, it was very good, well acted. The story was interesting. Skarsgård, I think is the last name of the Pennywise, did a fantastic job. He played up the more creep instead of the more camp, like in the original one. It was something that really was just a fun movie to watch, for me at least. I wasn't really scared throughout most of it. It was just something I could sit down and watch, like, wow, that was really good. I like that. Bryce, what was your number 5?
Well, just briefly on It, the comparison between this clown and Tim Curry's clown is day and night. They're two different characters, and I really liked what the new actor added to Pennywise. He's a lot more creepy in this film, and I enjoyed that.
Did he spook you?
I was spooked. I was thoroughly spooked.
This guy gets spooked at anything.
But
Fucking shit.
My number 5 is going to come from Mr. Guillermo del Toro. It's going to be A Shape of Water. It just recently came out. And this movie has a really, really nice aesthetic to it. It's set in the 60s, and it kind of reminded me of the Fallout universe combined with like a series of unfortunate events. The main character is kind of an asshole at times, honestly. It's hard to relate to her sometimes because she floods her second floor bathroom and completely ruins a nice building.
Spoiler alert, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, but overall it's a cute love story, and it's interesting. But it does leave me with a few questions, mainly about fish sex. What do you think, Jacob?
Well, I just kind of want to know where the fish guy gets his dingling at, because in the movie you see there's nothing there, but she obviously says that he's packing, and he's packing some serious heat.
Yeah. I can't compete with this fish meat, so I gotta know what's going on. All right, Jacob, what's your fourth favorite film of this year?
I'm going to my fourth favorite film. It had to be The Disaster Artist. A movie about the worst movie ever made, The Room, and the making of it. It was. I'm not surprised that it was good, but I'm a little surprised how much I actually enjoyed this film. I came in thinking, okay, it's gonna be James Franco being James Franco, and Dave Franco just kind of playing second fiddle to James Franco, which kind of does happen. But I really enjoyed the portrayal of Tommy Wiseau, the international man of mystery that he is. All we know about the man is that he's Polish and he's endless buckets of money.
Where does the money come from?
Like they mentioned, he's a bottomless pit. I want to know, where does he get it? His jean jacket store? Who knows? He just has all this money.
The man does make a nice jean jacket.
I wonder about that sometimes too, Chris. I wonder. But the movie was funny and at times tragic, I guess. I would say
Did it tear you apart?
Good joke. I would say the second half is a little bit more interesting, because the second half is when they finally start making The Room, and I think that's where all the good drama and all the good characters and all the good jokes kind of come in, because it's basically everyone commenting on the weird things that you would comment about in the film, such as Tommy Wiseau having intercourse with Lisa's belly button and how that scene was filmed, and they would comment on that, and it's basically how you, the viewer, would react to it if you were making this movie. My one real complaint though would have to be the ending. The ending kind of speed runs through the movie becoming that cult classic. Usually cult classics don't become that until years later, and when people think, wow, this is ironically good. In this one, it just kind of happens immediately, and I think that's a bit too abrupt, but otherwise it doesn't really ruin the film, because it just kind of gets you there faster. But that's my thoughts on it. Bryce, what do you think?
Yeah, the disaster artist was really great. As Jacob said, it puts you in the headspace of someone working on the making of The Room. Probably one of the funniest films of all time. And just the way Seth Rogen and James Franco came together on this project and really encapsulated who Tommy Wiseau is as a person made this one of my favorite films of the year. It didn't make my top 5, but I did enjoy it and I would recommend going to see it. But my number 4 is going to be 3 Billboards outside of Ebbing, Missouri. This film is based in a small town in my and Jacob's home state, Missouri.
Actually.
Missouri. It's down kind of outside Springfield. I actually don't know where Ebbing, Missouri is, but
nor do I want to.
Yeah, after watching this movie, I don't want to go to Ebbing, Missouri.
But why do you want to go to Missouri anywhere than for Kansas City? The Missouri side, not the Kansas side. But
that's enough. That's enough. We need to talk about movies here, Jacob.
I'm sorry.
Jacob has just got us into cross-county politics. Anyway, this movie really ties together the way small town life works, and it adds a lot of interesting dynamics between the characters. Everyone in this film fucks up and then is somehow redeemed at the end, which is interesting, but also leaves you kind of wondering exactly if people are redeemable, and that's an interesting question for a film to ask, is can you find redemption in even the worst of people? And I find myself asking that question a lot daily, so for a film to kind of delve into that and to really look at people in an interesting light and not so nice light and try to find and strive to bring them together for a common goal is it's good. It's interesting and it's definitely recommend seeing. Frances McDormand as the lead. I can see why she has Oscar aspirations after this film. She's really, really strong in this and she plays her part to a T. And she is one of the reasons why I really enjoyed this film. Jacob, what is your third favorite film of this year?
For me, my third favorite film would have to be Baby Driver. Baby Driver is something that you can just sit down and have fun with. It wasn't, I would say, great. It was very good. It's not really that great because the whole romance between Baby and what's her name?
Deborah.
Sorry, Deborah. Duh. Was just kind of If Baby Driver wasn't driving, I was a bit to the film. But when he was driving though, that's when the movie really picks up. All the action sequence and the driving sequences were amazing. The opening, fantastic. The soundtrack, fantastic. And this movie was just something that you sit down and have fun with. Nothing, and it's a very Edgar Wright film if you know what that means. Like it's just very aesthetically pleasing, and just kind of has that kind of quirky charm to it that really you can really have a good time with. Bryce, what's your number 3?
My number 3 is a lesser known film. It's one that my sister actually put me on to. It's Loving Vincent. And it's being shown at the local, probably independent theaters around your city. And it's a frame-by-frame painting film of the death of Vincent van Gogh, and it tells the narrative of how he died, and just like probably a little bit of how people felt after his death. It follows a detective trying to discover what happened to Vincent and how he died. And every frame is hand-painted and then put together, so this was one of the most amazing artistic undertakings I've ever seen. Just the way that all these artists came together to not only animate this project, but also to include a lot of Vincent's paintings together and put them into a narrative film that involved Vincent's death. It was really, really amazing to look at. It really made me, as an artist, inspired to do things more outside of just using my camera, because it allowed me to think of all the possibilities that there are. Because it just amazed me, and I really, really recommend seeing it no matter where you are.
Sounds like one hell of an anime.
Oh yeah, best anime of 2017.
It was good to know.
Well, Jacob, let's delve into your number 2 of this year.
See, my number 2 this year would have to be Dunkirk, directed by Chris Nolan, one of my personal favorite directors. Now I am a sucker for period pieces, and Dunkirk is one of those period pieces that isn't really talked about that often. Because usually in World War II, it's a World War II piece that usually talk about the Battle of the Bulge or the Siege of Stalingrad, or the Battle of Stalingrad and the Siege of Berlin. But Dunkirk is basically about the British fucking up real bad, and after the Nazis basically steamroll through France, and the British gotta get the hell out of Dodge. And there's not enough boats to take them back, and those darn Nazis using submarines again like the assholes they are. And so every time they try to get off with huge ships, the submarines would just blow them up. And so they're in this kind of catch-22. Well, if you send ships, you're gonna get blown up. If you don't, you're gonna get killed by the Nazis, as they're already approaching from the land. And the story is told not through words, but mostly through the images and soundtrack. Through Hans Zimmer's soundtrack and Chris Nolan's beautiful cinematography. And it's something. It's a spectacle to look at, and it's something that you can really sink your teeth into and have a good time with. That really makes you kind of sit down and appreciate the craft of filmmaking. That's what I think about it. What do you think?
Dunkirk was my number 1 film of this year, but for my number 2, I'm actually going to disagree with Jacob. I think Baby Driver was my second favorite film. And I know Jacob got bored with the bits outside of the car, but I think those are also interesting in the film. And Edgar Wright doesn't just leave the music and the driving to in the car. There are plenty of thematic scenes outside of the car, and he really delves into Baby's character and who he is and develops him and his backstory. I think that Baby Driver is definitely my second favorite film because of the way that Edgar Wright uses cuts on beats in order to create action sequences. It's really, really well done, and it gets me energized and pumped. I paid 3 times to watch that film in theaters, and I don't regret any of those purchases just because of how well that film was made.
Fair enough. I don't disagree with you. I just think that it's a bit lesser, but opinions here, boys. Opinions here.
So Jacob, before we go to your top film of the year, as I've already stated mine, but I have some reasoning behind it. What are some films that you didn't get to see this year that you really wish you would have?
For me, it kind of goes into 2. One of them was one of your favorite movies of the year, 3 Billboards in Ebbing, Missouri. I really wanted to see that movie. I just never had a chance to. I was wrapped up with college stuff and other things, and I just hadn't had a chance to, and no one to go see it with. But everything I saw from the movie looked really entertaining, looked really dark, but had an interesting comedic tone to it, and it looked something that looked really interesting to watch, but I just didn't have the time to see it. And another one would have to be All the Money in the World. And then mostly because before the allegations, because I wanted to see because of Kevin Spacey, because I was a huge Kevin Spacey fan, before he, did the thing. And now that he's done the thing, I really can't like him anymore, and I kind of lost interest after they recast him. But even after seeing it and then looking up what the whole incident was about, I'm still interested to see how this all happened, and it's something I would still see now. But yeah, those are my only 2.
Yeah, so there were a few that I didn't get to see this year. The Killing of a Sacred Deer kind of gave me Silence of the Lambs vibes, and I really wish I could have seen it, but I was out of town on its opening weekend, and then I just never really got around to seeing it. And I'm sure Colin Farrell looked really good in it, and I'm probably going to pick it up this year and maybe do an analysis on it because it looked really interesting. And then the second one is a more recent film, Lady Bird by Greta Gerwig. That one also looked pretty good, and it's by A24, who has put out some really, really, really great stuff recently, including The Disaster Artist, like Jacob mentioned. And I'm sure that it's going to be really great, considering what it's gotten on Rotten Tomatoes and just seeing her interviews on late night talk shows. I'm sure that it's going to be something that I'm going to want to see a few times. So I'm looking forward to watching that this year.
Well, enough of that shit.
Those are some films that I didn't get to see this year, but now we're going to move on to our number 1 films of the year. Jacob, what was your favorite film of this year?
My favorite film was a sequel to one of my actual favorite movies of all time, Blade Runner 2049. Now, I was a bit skeptical about how good this movie was going to be. A lot of the trailers and promotional art was basically either Ryan Gosling or Deckard, played by Harrison Ford, who played Deckard in the original one, and I thought they're just going to rely on nostalgia for a lot of it, and like how they use it in Star Wars too much. And that's something I don't like. I think banking on nostalgia is something that we need to get away from. But to my surprise, the movie blew my expectations out of the water. Deckard doesn't appear until the 3rd act, and basically Ryan Gosling steals the show as, I can't remember his name, he's an android. He's an android, and the world they build builds off of the original Blade Runner so well that it's a sequel in its truest sense, that it's not Blade Runner with a different story, it's Blade Runner that just builds off of the ideas placed in the original one without being beholden to it. And I think that it really is a mark in filmmaking, and it's just one of those few times where a sequel is done right and not just for the money, because you can really see the passion behind it. This wasn't made because someone's like, we can make a lot of money off this. Someone said, I really want to make this movie, and it really shows throughout all of it. The small details, all the weird sci-fi stuff that goes on. You want to see it in just pictures that people don't care about, and it's something that I just really love this year, and I would have loved to see more, but I will soon though. Bryce, what's your number 1?
My number 1 is going to be Jacob's number 2, like I said previously. It's going to be Dunkirk. Dunkirk was thematically amazing. It was a cinematic masterpiece. He shot it, Christopher Nolan shot it on both digital and film, and that really adds a weight to the graininess of the film. Actually adds a nice effect to it. It puts you in that time period, the graininess of the film. And also the way Christopher Nolan wrote the film is really well done, because none of the characters don't speak that much, and that gives weight to what they say, because you know that every line of dialogue they say is going to be important to the story, and there's very little filler when it comes to this. I think Tom Hardy says like 10 to 20 words in the entire film, and that's funny to me, but I like Tom Hardy's sequence of it, storyline really a lot. Harry Styles surprised me. I didn't know that he had acting chops, but he does, and he
barely talks in the fucking movie.
Did you like him? Did you like him in it?
I didn't even know he was in the movie until someone pointed it out.
Exactly. You didn't know he was in there because he just fit in, because he was good.
I also barely know who Harry Styles is, but that's besides the point though.
So we're gonna be done talking about boy bands, and we're gonna move on just to more things about the film. I would recommend watching this one on the big screen. I think that really gives you the best option for looking at it, because if I had to watch this in my apartment on my smaller TV, I don't think I would appreciate it as more.
Your TV's kind of shit.
Yeah, I have a shitty TV, and I don't know, it was worth paying the IMAX surround for it. Christopher Nolan, he doesn't really have like a defining factor in his films, but they're just always really good. So maybe that's just his defining factor, and I really, really enjoyed this one, and I'm glad that he came out with it this year.
I want to say this is his best movie, but I don't think he's made a bad movie yet.
No, he hasn't.
So we've gone through our favorite movies of the year, our top 5 favorite movies.
Yeah.
Now it's time to get to the fucking shit.
We praised a lot of people that deserved it, but now we're getting into the real stuff, the nit grit, the shit fest. Now, 2017 was a good year for movies. I saw a lot of stuff that I enjoyed, and I didn't pay to see movies that I knew I wasn't going to enjoy. So for this year, my shit fest is a different aspect to it. It's not just the worst films, because I knew the Emoji Movie was going to be bad. I knew that the new Transformer film was going to be bad. Like that's an assumption that you make. You know they're going to be bad.
What this year, say about assumptions, right? You can make an ass of it, you and me.
Well, I saw Transformers 3, and I hate Transformers whatever.
Transformers 5, actually.
Whatever Mark Wahlberg's in. It was terrible. But this year, I'm making the biggest differential between what I expected of a film and what it was actually at. And for me, that's going to be Star Wars The Last Jedi. I came into this film, I gave, what was the name of number 7?
What?
The Force Awakens. I gave The Force Awakens a 7 out of 10. I thought it was a pretty solid film, but The Last Jedi was something that really, really stood out to me as a bad film this year. I gave it about a 4, just because of the way that it was written. The story was all over the place. There were way too many different plots that just ended up not mattering in the end, and this led to the film being almost 3 hours long, which I felt like was a millennia when I was sitting in there. A millennium, maybe even.
Would that millennium be a Falcon as well?
Now, Jacob, what was your worst movie?
Well, I'm gonna be the opposite of Bryce. There's a movie I saw that I had low expectations for, and then for some reason it shattered my expectations the opposite direction of good, bad. The Dark Tower adaptation of Stephen King's book, The Dark Tower, book 1, The Gunslinger, I assume. I've never been so awed in a movie how bad it is after seeing it. Because going into the movie, I was like, this movie's gonna be okay. It can't be bad. Then I watched the movie theater, and I actually think I could just leave right now. I've never thought about that in a movie before. Never in my life have I thought I could just leave the theater right now and no one would give a shit. All 5 people in the theater, most of them being my friends, and there's so many things wrong with this movie. Like, it's not funny. There's like one funny scene in this entire movie. Everyone other than Matthew McConaughey and Idris Elba acts terribly. That kid is annoying. He's just there.
Jacob.
Yes.
If I gave you the option of drinking this gallon,
the movie's bad,
of original blue windshield wash, or watching that movie again, what would you choose?
I think I choose the blue. What's it called? The original blue, because The Dark Tower is a garbage fucking movie with only one good scene where they are just reloading guns, and that is the best scene in your movie. Then you are officially worse than drinking windshield wiper fluid.
So, I'm gonna agree with Jacob here. I think I'd rather drink this than watch Star Wars again. But overall, 2017 was a great year in cinema, and I'm looking forward to 2018. I know Jacob is too.
I am.
So let us know in the comments what you thought of 2017, some of your favorite films, maybe some of the duds. We'd like to know. Comment, subscribe, and just let us know what's going on in your world of cinema.
So, see you next time, guys.